In this video, I want to talk about unintended consequences. Unintended consequences are consequences you either didn't foresee or you didn't plan. Okay, let's say that you want to throw a ball in a pond of water because you want to see it drift on the water. Okay, that was your intended outcome, and you throw the ball in the pond. But because you threw the ball in the pond, water splashed around. So now there's some people that became wet because of it. Now, did you intend to make those people wet? No. Them becoming wet is just a side effect of the ball splashing in the water. So you caused them becoming wet. Not that you wanted them to become wet. That's just an unintended consequence. You get what I'm saying here? Look, that parable of throwing a ball in a pond, I want to use it to teach you that prayer has side effects. I said it before, so that's nothing new. But just understand that anytime you walk by faith, there is going to be some side effect somewhere. And that's natural. That's how things work. It isn't just with faith. With everything you do, there are side effects. Just like naturally throwing a ball in a pond, there's a side effect that water splashes around. I mean, with everything there are side effects. That's natural. But too often, people, I'm especially talking to believers now, don't see the side effects of operating spiritually. Now, atheists who know nothing about the spiritual realm, well, I'm not even talking about them because they're just, well, they're deceived and they may be factual and they have no cover nor any protection at all. So they just have to find a way to deal with the external circumstances. Even though they may motivate themselves thinking they're taking control of their lives, when it comes down to it, need to find a way to cope and adapt to circumstances. But you, who operate spiritually, you are like a ruler. You can affect, you can will things into existence. Yes, you can. Most people, however, are not in agreement with Christ. So their spirituality is paranormal. So they're involved with the demonic, often without being aware of it. And of course, there's going to be side effects, serious side effects when you're operating in the demonic. Absolutely. But understand, when you walk supernaturally, that means in agreement with Christ, there are going to be side effects also. But those side effects will include violent reactions of both demonic spirits and of people that don't want to be affected by your walk by faith. Yes, I said it. That is what I want to remind you of. There will be unintended consequences that you will face when you walk by faith. Maybe they never taught you this in church. Maybe you never heard this, but I'm telling you, there will be unintended consequences. It can be that you used to have a lot of financial difficulty and you began to walk by faith, but financial difficulties just persisted. But nevertheless, the little bit of money you had, you began to invest it. You took courses here and there. You began to build your own website and host it on the internet. So you began to develop. And you put faith behind all that you did. And it all prospered. So after a while, the financial difficulties just vanished. And now you're operating in financial abundance. But here's the thing. People now are seeing your websites. They're seeing the things you've made. And now because you put faith behind it, there's supernatural power behind it. So things become quite known. But then you have folks that notice your influence, but they can't stand your influence. Simply because it's not you, it's not them. It's you, and they don't really know you, and they're all into themselves, so they want to keep it all into themselves. But there's the thing, you've put faith behind what you're doing. So anytime they criticize, become negative towards what you're doing, it backfires onto them. And sooner or later, they'll see the link between them being against your influence and the consequences that haunts them. That backfires onto them. So what's going to happen now? Either they acknowledge and they repent, and they let your influence be around and find a way to deal with it in the right manner, or, and this often happens, they lose it. They become upset. They freak out. And once they freak out, they become desperate enemies of yours. wanting to take down your influence. And when this happens, the people around them now are going to face this rage of theirs. Relatives, spouses, people at work. So they now have to deal with all this rage and all that comes along with it. Now what has happened? You walking by faith had unintended consequences. And those people now are experiencing the unintended consequences of you walking by faith. Now, did you intend to cause all that contention? No. First of all, you're not responsible for it. When you throw a ball in a pond of water, well, then it's directly you causing the splashing. Okay, in this case, it's not you causing the contention, it's their reaction towards your influence, but nevertheless your influence is there. And people can argue, if your influence was never there, there was never, people couldn't react against it, and that's true. But still, you're not to blame. Nevertheless, there are unintended consequences. And look at this. When people see the link between you walking by faith and the unintended consequences they're facing, they'll turn on you too. Even if those unintended consequences did not harm them directly. They'll turn on you, they'll blame you, instead of dealing with those that choose to be violent against your influence. I'm telling you, as someone that walks by faith, you ought to be ready to encounter all of this, because you will. Okay, another example. You cast out the spirit of violence. Before when you went to the mall, you had to look out that you don't violate expectations of the streets. You don't stare at people, you don't look at people too much. When you go to the shop, you say you have your etiquette, say good morning, good afternoon. You have all these restrictions that prevent people from becoming upset with you. And you submit to all of them because you don't want to get in trouble. You want people to give you negative attention. But now that you cast out the spirit of violence, you are free. You walk freely. You don't violate anyone, but you're just you. And what happens? People that now become upset, that negative meditation bounces back onto them. So when they're at home or at the job, they're the ones being affected. And you are at ease. So after a while, people are going to notice that nobody can will anything against you. But what happens now? They can't tell you to move away, because if they do that, they need to explain why. And it will be a fight. And here's the thing, they can't fight you because it bounces back. So now they need to find a way to deal with you, but they don't want to deal with you. So this pain, they need to cope with it, but they don't want to cope with it. So it can be that some of those people that are upset with you, they're now at home and now they turn on their wives or turn on their husbands. And now you have domestic violence. Did you cause domestic violence? No, you didn't. Those folks just need to repent of their unexamined expectations. But because they hold on to it, that tension now is going to leak out. And because it can't be transferred onto you because it bounces back, when it bounces back, it affects the environment where the perpetrators are. So that domestic violence is an unintended consequence of you casting out the spirit of violence from you. And you did the right thing. You shouldn't have that paranormal stronghold of violence on you. Those other folks that chose to be upset with you, they're operating in violence. So they are responsible for holding on to their violent mindset. So eventually they're responsible that things bounce back onto them, because they shouldn't send out the negative intention anyway. Just understand, you walking by faith will have unintended consequences. Christ had it. Yes, he did. It was this man that was born blind. Christ healed him. But that man was cast out by his relatives and by the synagogue. Why? Because the scribes and Pharisees didn't want to acknowledge Christ's influence. So the unintended consequence was that that man was now banned by his community. Now, if Christ himself faced unintended consequences, who are you that you will not face unintended consequences? You will. Just don't be afraid of it. It's just how it is in this world when you walk by faith. Not only when you walk by faith, but I'm talking to those who walk by faith now. You will have unintended consequences. And you will have sudden afflictions arising because of it. Just don't worry. Keep on going. Walk in love towards everyone, but you can't walk in love with everyone. Just remember that. The reason Christ tells you to pray for your enemies is not to excuse what they're doing. It is to prevent you from becoming bitter in your thinking. Because once you become bitter in your thinking, the spirit of bitterness attaches itself to you. Christ wants you free from their negative meditation. That's why You walk in love towards everyone. You pray for your enemies. This does not guarantee that they will change. It guarantees that you remain free from the grip of violence. It guarantees that you remain in the true safety. So, keep walking by faith and remember there will be unintended consequences. I face them every day. All believers will face unintended consequences. So get this fantasy out of your head that when you walk by faith, you're only going to get the outcomes you want. Even in the world, in the paranormal, that's not the case. It's nowhere the case. That being said, agree with Christ and be at peace.